What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 60 of the Steam Deck Podcast, Flip Screen Games weekly podcast, all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Of course, the finest mind in the Steam Deck community. How can I forget?
Yeah, whatever.
How quick we are to concede.
I am very excited, Pete. It's Next Fest, October 2023 edition, and we've been playing some demos, and there's some good shit in there.
There's some good stuff. Yeah, for sure. And there's one game on this list I'm very excited to talk about. It went from being not even on my radar to being like, oh my God, I can't wait to play this. Love it.
I know, yeah, that's the beauty of Next Fest, is like you find these things out, and it's like I never would have thought to even look at this. Like, these are the kind of games that you could see in a Nintendo Direct, and because they're not all coming to Switch, they're just not always on my radar, and there's not enough places for these indie titles to be shown, because some of these, right, some of the indie games show up in like a wholesome Direct, but if it's not a wholesome game, where does it get shown? Like, there's nowhere else really for it to be shown. And I love the fact that Valve has Next Fest because of that.
It's funny, man, because even with Next Fest, like, I thought the discoverability this year was a little tough because there's just so many games being highlighted. Like the game, we don't have to bury the lead. The game that we're both most high on coming out of this is a game called American Arcadia, and
Mhm.
really cool. We'll talk more about it and the premise later, but that game, I was like going through the pages, and there wasn't a great inroad for me for that game until you were like, go download this game. You got to download this game, and then
Yeah, it's a
I
few pages deep, unfortunately.
yeah, and it's not like I wasn't going through. Like I went 5 pages deep on the standard page. I looked at the most recommended, the most played by hours, the most favorited. Like, I was trying to look at all these different metrics and see what caught my eye, and I don't know if I didn't get to it, or I maybe I glided past it because the album art didn't catch me or whatever. But you know, it is a shame that it was that easy for me to miss it while I was looking for stuff that I wanted to check out. It speaks to what you're saying, right? Where like discoverability at this point is tough just because there's so many games and so many quality games out there, no less,
Yeah, like
right?
the quality of American Arcadia is just insane. I was extremely impressed with it. I mean that's got a big publisher behind it. It's Raw Fury that's publishing American Arcadia, so I think it
I'm
will
not familiar.
find
What's
footing.
Raw Fury? I don't know that I've heard of them.
They've done a few big games from what I can remember. Let me have a quick look. So they did that stable game or Sable game. They've done a good chunk of indie titles.
Okay.
Let me have a look, see what's most recent. Yeah, they're doing American Arcadia. They did that Cassette Beasts game
Oh,
that
okay.
came out.
Okay. I know that one, right?
Um, they've done that. They've done Sable, Dome Keeper, Townscaper.
Okay. So
They've done a
yeah, got a
few
couple
games.
hits under their belt.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
But
well,
it's not like they're a Devolver, right? Like Devolver have
yeah,
their own place. They like showcase things and
sure,
stuff.
sure. Seems like they're a publisher on the rise, though.
Yeah, and it's nice to see more of these publishers, these smaller publishers that specialize in like giving an outlet for indie titles, because Devolver was that for a long time, but I think they're quite choosy with their games now.
Well, yeah, I mean that.
Um,
Yeah, we're talking about it a little bit on the Flip Screen Games podcast this week, right? But like with everything going on, with the economy, right? Like it's going to make those bigger publicly traded companies risk averse
yeah,
because it's harder to borrow money or to take on debt now that
which is a shame. It's like because from Devolver, I expected risky games, but they are a publicly traded company. They do have Wall Street to answer to. They
they
do have
can't
shareholders.
be as risky as they used to be.
Yeah, whereas someone
Shame.
like Annapurna, like, I really hope we still see some of the creative games that they've published and put
Well,
out before.
and we talked about this when that first happened of like, oh, what does this mean? Like as you see those great indie developers kind of move up and become bigger and become publicly traded and make bigger games or whatever, then like what happens to these kinds of games? And it's like, well, I think the answer is that new publishers step up, right? What's this
Mhm.
team you said?
Raw Fury is the publisher of
Right?
this
And it's
one.
like I was not familiar with that name, but you rattle off a couple of those games and I'm like, okay, I know these games. So, a couple years from now is Raw Fury one of the publishers we're looking to for, the type of games we used to get
Yeah,
from
because like,
Devolver, probably.
Annapurna kinda came out of nowhere for a while. It was
Uh-huh.
like
They used to make movies. I mean,
yeah,
they might still make movies, but
they do still make movies.
but yeah, it's like new challengers are always emerging. So, but it's cool to see. Let's talk a little bit about American Arcadia. We don't have to wait to talk about. Let's not bury the lead. This was both of the games. Our game of show, I think, thus far. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think for me, this was the most interesting title I played. There's a couple of others that I'm really excited about, but this was one that I just didn't expect. Like, you open it up, there's a mystery from the beginning. The guy's like in a room, he's being interviewed about an event that had happened, and then you kind of go back in time, and he talks about it. And it turns out he's like an architect that works at this big company, and he heads to work, and Gus, his friend, his coworker, who's in his space, has been awarded this travel grant and is no longer around. And then he sits down at his desk, and everything kind of glitches out. And on the big screen behind him, it says Gus is dead. And then everything kind of shifts into. I think it reminded me of Inside, like you're just walking sideways. There's these like little puzzles you've got to
Yeah,
solve, and you've got to
totally.
platform around, but someone's in your ear and she's telling you these things. Turns out you're like in a TV show or a movie or something called American Arcadia, and you're behind the scenes when you go through this door. And there's like TV cameras and like set dressing and costumes and everything there backstage. But then it gets to a point where you need to access the CCTV, and for me, that was like a real big surprise that it like
Yeah,
shifted out and she's just watching him on a screen. And now all of a sudden I'm in like a first person perspective game, and I'm moving around on this like security floor, and I've got to try and hardwire these cameras so that they're seeing a repeat footage, and I can access into the server room so I can help this guy out. And I'm really, really intrigued just to see who he is, why he needs help, what the hell American Arcadia is in the first place, why there's like this set and a TV show going on.
I'm like even more interested in who she is and how she is aware or like why she's helping him because it seems like she works at the company that controls the so I don't know, there's a lot of unanswered questions, but it's very interesting, and, like, I'm with you where, like, I thought it was very cool where, like, I'm in this 2D perspective, and then, out of nowhere, we shift to this first person thing, and then when those things converge, it's even cooler, right? Like, you get
Oh
to this.
yeah, where like I'm moving the camera and the lights and things, and I'm like manipulating stuff as her, but then I can shift back to him.
Yeah, or, like, you can keep moving as him while you're controlling with her, so, like, you can, be interacting with the space, like, there's, like, a point where, you're getting chased, and there's, like, this puzzle you need to solve, and it's, like, you need
On the
to.
crane.
Yeah, and you need to activate all the parts at the right time so that, like, it's timed right and you can make it through, and it's, like it's very, yeah, it's very interesting, like you said, I think very reminiscent of something like Inside, or, um,
Or
the game
Limbo or Little
Limbo, that's the one
Nightmares,
I was
those
thinking
kind
of.
of things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But, like, you know, I
Very different setting, like a sci-fi thriller where it's like almost like the Truman Show, and we have no idea what's going on. It's
yeah, and, like, very
different
different
vibe.
different, like, art style and tone, like, it's brighter, it's a little, like, softer look to it, it's got, like, an almost, like,
Very
Starfield
70s
color.
vibes. Yeah, the color of the
Yeah.
palette is very Starfield, like 70s retro. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's got a really good aesthetic and, like, full voice acting, right? Like, there's a lot of story, like, most of what we saw was dialogue and exposition, right? Even the gameplay stuff is very rooted in, like, advancing the story, which is cool, and, something that I recognized the lead character's voice as I was playing, and, I thought at first it was, like, Elijah Wood, and I was like, "Who is this?" Like, I recognize this, and I finally looked it up, and it's Yuri Lowenthal, so who, best known as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, right? So, um, very cool to see
Hey,
him
he's Peter
involved there as
Parker to
well.
some people, he's Ben 10 to others, so it's like,
It's true, that's true.
depends who you are and how old you are.
He's one in the a rare club too of, being somebody who's voiced both Spider-Man and Superman, so one of the
Oh, has
cooler
he? Okay.
one of the cooler people out there for sure.
Yeah, he's
Um,
he's great, and he's, like, done a lot of video games, like, he was in Diablo 3 as well, like, he
yeah.
he voiced, Lorath in Diablo 3, which was cool.
Yeah, I'm very into this game. Like, when the demo ended, I was disappointed, I wanted more of it, I am very, very excited.
Ended at a good point though, like,
Oh,
jumping off
yeah,
the roof into the pool, it's like
and he's
and
like,
then, like
"That's not even the worst of what I had to do," and it's like, "Oh, shoot, let's go!" Like, I'm in.
not long to wait on it, it's out in
November.
November. Yeah, so not long at all. I put this one on my wish list immediately.
Immediately, yep, yes, same here. Yeah, I can't wait for this game. This is gonna be a great weekender for sure. I can't wait to I mean, I'm assuming that it's shorter, but,
Yeah, I
um,
hope it is. I kind of expect it to be like a 2, 3, 4 hour kind of thing, and
yeah.
I'd be very happy with that.
Me too. Yeah, I this is like I said, this is one that was, like, not on my radar, and now I messaged a friend immediately afterwards, was like, "You need to pick this up, go play the demo," like, I this game seems like it's got the sauce. I hope it, lands, you know? I hope it's not like a 12-minute situation where we're like, "Whoa, what a
Yeah, no,
taste."
I
No.
don't think it will. I don't think it will. But I just love the kind of transitions between it being an interview, and that kind of reminded me of Persona 5, where they do the interview scenes
Sure,
and then it like
yeah.
goes back in time and like she's talking to Joker. I do really like that.
I think the
Um,
whole, like, shifting from 1st to 2nd to 3rd person is really cool. Like,
yeah, so cool.
it's a very clever gameplay hook, and I feel like the fact that it seemingly has a good story with good voice acting and everything, to back it up, seems like it's gonna come together based on what we saw.
Again, it's only 12 minutes. Willem Dafoe.
We're not talking about that. We're gonna move on. What game you wanna talk about next?
I want to talk about Talos Principle 2 because this came to Next Fest previously to get this demo. This demo dropped a few days before Next Fest, and the only way you could get it was going through this long puzzle that they had on their website that was kind of like
Incredible.
a weird like homage to the game. But I loved Talos Principle. I was really excited about Talos Principle 2 when they announced it. I think this was announced at the Xbox event earlier this year. Coming next month again, so this one's probably going to make it onto my Game of the Year list. I played a good chunk of this, played about half an hour, but it looks like it's around a 2 hour demo. And what's really cool about it is they say at the beginning of the demo that none of the stuff that you see in this demo is in the actual game. It's just to show you what kind of puzzles they're going to be, but all of the
Oh, I
puzzles in
love
the game
that.
are different.
That's great.
So it's kind of like a little prequel to the game if you want to. Like
Yeah.
it fits between the end of Talos 1 and
Little
Talos 2.
amuse-bouche, you know? Little,
And so it's really cool.
whet your palate.
Because you don't wanna be doing the same puzzles multiple times, that would just
No.
be tedious and annoying, so you can download
Especially
this
2
and not have
hours
to worry
worth.
about that.
Like,
Yeah.
that would really be a bummer to have to, like, replay 2 hours worth of puzzles. Although I
Yeah,
guess they move pretty
100%.
quick if you know the solution, right?
Probably, but, you'll probably forget them, like, there's so many in here, and you can do them in all sorts of different order. If you've played Talos 1, this will feel very familiar to you, and I think that is probably the biggest compliment I could give it is that it feels like more Talos Principle. It's what I wanted, but there are more puzzle mechanics in there that we've seen in the trailers. Some of those come up in the demo. I'm sure as I play more, I'll find more of the mechanics, more of the story. But Talos Principle had a great story. I'm looking forward to uncovering what the story is in Talos Principle 2 and also just having more environmental puzzles to solve. I love this style of game, and I really hope people check out this demo. If you like stuff like Portal or The Witness, I think Talos is well worth checking out. And the demo's up until Monday, so go check it out.
Very nice. Yeah, I know this is a genre that generally speaks to you pretty loudly, so, was excited to see this one and hear what you thought. Definitely not usually my cup of tea, but,
Yeah.
glad to see, so I know the original was kind of a bit of a cult classic, so
Yeah, 100%. This is another one of the titles as well that has Intel's XeSS in there that I spoke about last week, on the one I was playing Deceive Inc. So if you download the Talos Principle demo, turn that on, give it a go. It defaults to TAA. Try Intel's XeSS because it is really, really good.
nice. Alright, so one of the games I thought about checking out, but I didn't get around to, was Crime Scene Cleaner. So, let's talk about Crime Scene Cleaner, Steve. How's this game?
So it's a bit rough around the edges, the demo, and I'm
Oh
sure
my
they'll
god,
fix a
it's
lot of
so
it for
funny because
launch.
you say that and the footage that you picked, I immediately just watched a body clip through a truck, so
Yes, yeah. It gets zipped up in a body bag, but the demo, it doesn't work out of the box. You'll need to download Proton GE. It just launched onto a black screen, so you'll need to use that if you want to give it a go. And it does not. It supports controller, but all of the buttons it will tell you are keyboard buttons. So you're gonna have to try and figure it out, or do what I did, which was just switch to keyboard and mouse control, and then wire up all the buttons myself. It was a pain in the ass. It won't obviously be an issue for launch. Someone else will do a
Yeah.
community layout if the
Yeah,
developer
it's a
doesn't do a
demo,
layout.
right? You know?
But this is such a cool concept, and it's a concept for a game I had myself years ago, and I wanted to make. Someone's beat me to it. Fine. It's basically a cross between House Flipper and Pressure Washer Simulator with
Power Wash
murder in there.
Simulator, excuse me.
Yeah, that one. Power Wash Simulator with murder in there. So you are the guy that someone calls, like the wolf in
Pulp
um
Fiction.
in Pulp Fiction. There's been in the demo, 5 people have been murdered at this villa, and you've got to go clean it up, basically. You gotta make sure you pick up all the evidence, you clean up all the blood, you pick up all the rubbish, and you dispose of all the bodies. And you have to solve a bunch of puzzles in order to do it. You gotta figure out how to get into the villa in the first place, and to do that, you have to empty the pool to get a key, to then open up a fuse box. So there's all sorts of levels of layers in there. And it's just so much fun. It's like it's taking the game formula that I think Power Wash Simulator really successfully kind of developed from House Flipper,
Yeah.
and just adding on another layer onto it. And yeah, I had a good time playing this. I'm gonna go back and finish up the level, I think, because I got half an hour into it and I was like, okay, I should probably stop playing this and
I gotta
start
try
playing
something else.
some of the other games because I kind of get what I'm doing at this point. It's
Yeah.
like here I am cleaning a swimming pool full of blood. So it was good fun.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'll have to get Sarah to try this one. Definitely not quite my cup of tea either on this one, but she's a huge Power Wash Simulator fan. So I'll have
Yeah,
to
when
see
I
if I can
saw
get
it,
her to download it.
I thought my dad instantly 'cause he must have played that game for hundreds of hours at this point. And I would imagine this will be a game that he'll pick up when it comes out.
Very nice. All right, what one do you want to talk about next, bud?
Let's talk about my work is not yet done because I'll be honest, this was a tough one for me to play. It's like an art house game, and it's like inspired by a book called "My Work Is Not Yet Done." It's a narrative-driven like horror game, and you have to like investigate shit. You're just walking around in this like 8-bit world, and I gave up with it. I got bored. And I know that's probably not good. I probably shouldn't, but it's just like something about the art style and the mechanics and not really being able to see where I'm going or what I'm doing. It was just a mix of things that on paper should have been great. Like I love this art style and stuff like Papers,
There we
Please
go.
or Return of the Obra Dinn. But when it's combined with just like arbitrary things to do, like pulling a camera out of a tree and then it just telling you on the screen what you need to do, it's just wasn't really doing much for me,
Little
to be
too like
honest.
point and click adventure for you.
Yeah, yeah, a little too much point and click. Like, there's no real way for me to see that there's a camera in the tree because the camera is essentially just a bunch of black dots on the screen. And like, I'm sure this game really speaks to someone. It's a really cool looking art style. It's just not something I want to power through and play. I don't think the narrative would have to be really, really good for me to want to bite on this.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm watching this footage that you applied, and it looks like the person playing the demo is having trouble, you know, like, I
Yeah,
see them
it's
trying to
not
do the
great.
same actions multiple times, and it's like, "What is going on?" You know, like
You can tell at one point that the developer must have done some play testing and they had to add something in because you go to press A to get something out of a tree, and it's like in the brackets, it says, press A, you'll need to put away your like scanner first. So you have to like put the scanner away and then press A, but it's just like, why? That's so arbitrary.
that's
Why do I need to do that? And
that's
it
lame.
seems just like a band-aid solution over the top just to say put it away in the text. So
Ooh, dude, I'm like, again, I'm jumping ahead in this demo, and it's like there are like 5 minutes where they're standing in one spot and just clicking on things and reading walls of text.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if some
Uh,
people really enjoy this kind of game, it was not for me.
I
But I
mean,
wanted to put it in because it's such an interesting art style.
yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, I like this kinda game, and this seems like, I don't know, not quite it for me. But, okay, my work is not yet done.
Mhm.
Let's talk about
Let's quickly touch on simpler times because I think you'll
okay,
remember this game when you start watching the video.
okay,
This was announced at a Nintendo Direct, and it's the one with the window, and you take pictures with Polaroids, right? You take Polaroids, and you're looking
yes.
out the window,
And it, like,
and
decides the story, right? Like, or something like that?
yeah. But she's also got, like, fucking Matilda powers that she can pick things off the tree and, like, put them in a bowl, and it's like she all of a sudden, the apple's, like, inside the house. And you have, like, a little book of things you need to do. There's a really cool soundtrack with, like, lo-fi hip hop, and you can pick up vinyls around your room, and you can swap the music around as well, which is really cool.
Cool.
Um, and it's just kind of like one of those games like, unpacking or something where you're just moving around a room and you're
It's, like,
just interacting with it.
experiential, like, you're kinda just, like,
Yeah, and you're, like,
experiencing
learning a
a place.
story. Yeah, you're learning the story through interacting with the objects. As you interact with an object, it'll be like, "Oh, I remember doing this last year," or, "This is a picture of, like, my mum in the garden, and she was, like, upset because dad stepped on
Yeah.
something." Um, so it was a really nice little demo. I don't know that it'll be one that I pick up immediately and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I really, really wanna play something like this," but this is the kinda game on, like, a rainy day, I can imagine just being
I
in
totally
bed
know what you
and
mean.
playing something like this.
This is the kinda game where, like, when I'm in the middle of a game and I am, like, not quite in the mood for something that's like, I've been doing this high action stuff all the time, like, I want something a little more
Yeah.
slow, cozy, like, I do like, I do like that kinda experience, you know? Like I said, it's a good weekender, right? It's like a good game to get through on, like, a Sunday or, like, you start
Yeah, I
on
think so, yeah. It felt a lot like a Chewy game to me, like, it's the kinda thing that I could
yeah.
see him picking up on Switch and just having a really good time with.
Yeah, I could see that. That's cool. I'm glad you liked it because I know that that was one that we were both interested in originally.
Yeah, this was one of the ones that was actually already on my wish list on Steam, so
Yeah, I think
if you
it's on
had
mine
games on
too.
your wish list as part of Next Fest, it, like, bubbled them up for me and was like, "Check these ones out, they're on your wish list already," which was quite cool, so I didn't have to go digging for that one.
Nice. All right. So the last game we wanted to highlight is another one that we both got a chance to dig into, which was another Crab's Treasure.
Was
So
this also announced at a Direct, or was this at an Xbox event?
I can't quite remember. I feel like this is a game we've seen a few times, and I
It
don't
was at a Nintendo event.
originally. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it was at, a Nintendo Direct in
I
May.
believe that. So, this is I mean, the long and short of this one is, like, you've probably seen this, right, at the direct or at some other event, because it's a game that I feel like has been bopping around for a while, but it's a Dark Souls-like game. But, rather than being, in like, a high fantasy environment or something that's like, Lovecraftian or, swords and sorcery, whatever, right? Like you're a cartoon crab, you're a hermit crab specifically, and you're fighting a bunch of, at least from what I saw in the demo, mostly just like regular crabs, other crustacea.
And they're all
And
so mean. There's no friendly ones.
no, you're the only one who looks cute, like the
Yeah,
rest of them are like photorealistic and they're real bullies.
I know, not nice. Where's
But
Sebastian?
yeah. But it's like the general kind of like bits of it that I think are unique, right? It's like you got your standard attack and dash and everything. There's a shell system that acts as like the armor where like you can find like right now in the video that I've got playing for folks, he's got a shot glass on. There was like a soda can he just passed by, bottle
You could
caps.
just have bottle caps. Yeah, I swapped mine out a few times. It was quite cool.
Yeah, and like each one has like a different amount of health that it provides and stuff like that. And like that's how your block system works is, you're constantly switching shells and, ideally finding one that's a little more durable or whatever. Um yeah, I think generally uh this game's got a good vibe. Like it was hitting for me. I think like the gameplay feels tight, or like tight enough anyway. Like it's not like quite as
It
razor sharp
Yeah, it's
as
not like I'm playing Elden Ring, but it doesn't need to be. And I liked the fact that the loading screen even mentioned that if you finding it too difficult, there's no shame in putting some of the assist modes on in the settings, which I thought was quite cool.
yeah.
But I loved the style of this. I thought the UI was just gorgeous. I liked the setting of it. The combat I found a bit clumsy, to be honest, like having to push in the stick every single time that I met a new enemy so that I was targeting them and then needing to dodge at a specific moment in time. The camera just didn't seem to be where I wanted it to be. If you know what I mean. I don't know if you experienced that.
I wouldn't say that I had that problem with the camera. Like the lock-on system felt pretty intuitive to me. It kind of reminded me of like Z targeting.
Yeah, I think it was just the wrong button for me. Like pushing in a stick just didn't feel right. And I'm sure if I swapped that to like one of the back buttons so I could quickly get in and out of it
Yeah.
without needing to move my hand, I feel like maybe
I'm
that
sure in the
would have
final
worked better
version,
for
yeah,
me.
you'll have that level of control that
Mhm.
you're looking for. I was actually playing on mouse and keyboard because I was trying to get these downloaded and played before we had to sit down and record. And I realized I went to go grab my Steam Deck and I was like, oh shoot, it's dead. I was like, all right, like let me just do it on the PC. So you normally like I would play this with a controller, but I was playing on mouse and keyboard and yeah, like it was the wheel on my mouse that was for locking on. Um, so I mean, like, I guess I can't really speak to how it felt on controller, but I would
Mm.
imagine the mouse and keyboard experience is probably a little more developed, since it's probably been, in existence a little bit longer. So
It was totally doable, and I could have gone into the Steam input overlay and
yeah,
tweaked it if I really wanted to. I managed to get through the tutorial, and I had a good time with it. I thought it was an okay platformer and an okay Souls-like combat system, but it had a really cool UI, and I liked the characters. I liked the
the
setting. I liked
personality
the
of it,
style.
I think
Yeah.
really carries it. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I think broadly I agree with you. Like I don't think either of those things felt exceptional, but I think they both feel good enough, where like I think it doesn't feel I wouldn't agree that it feels clunky. I think it's like a little, it's less sharp than what you're used to, because it's not Elden Ring, right? But like I think it still feels good to play, and
Mm.
I found, like, particularly, there's a piece of B-roll right now where he's, like, fighting one of the bigger enemies, and I found those to be pretty satisfying once I was getting in the rhythm of it, you know? I think it's one of those games where, like, once you spend a little time of it and you get your feet wet, so to speak, um
Oh yeah, 100%. And they're rhythm games. Souls games are rhythm games, and
totally.
you just gotta get in the zone with them.
Yeah, this is one I could see myself spending some time with. Like I really I like the vibe and the style of it, and like we don't get a lot of. 3D platformers or, Souls-like games, that are from, like, well, 3D
Either not
platformers.
Nintendo or not FromSoft.
Right, yeah, and it's like and for both of them, it's like we don't get a lot of 3D platformers, period, and we don't get a lot of Souls-like games that are not aping Dark Souls either, like, even the indie ones that I've
Yeah,
like
Lies of P was a little bit different, but I get
but,
what you're
like
saying. It's still
but, like,
that,
is it
like,
though? Like,
fantasy vibe, yeah.
it's a lot like Bloodborne, like, it's
Still
got that
very
kinda.
dark. I mean,
Yeah,
I
and
guess you
it's got
had,
that steampunky, Lovecraftian kind of vibe, like, it's it feels tonally similar, and even that indie game, its name is escaping me, I think it's like a Kala, and it's that the indie cat Dark Souls that I played at, uh, excuse me,
NYC Play.
NYC Play,
Mm.
yeah, and, that that game, uh, like, obviously had a lot of its own, like, flavor and style, and I'm not trying to, like, take a shot at, any of these games that, you know, show that influence on its sleeve, but it's cool to see this game be like, "Yeah, this is a Souls-like, but, like, it's different than any other one," just because
Yeah, like, the
it's
style
cartoony.
is nice, yeah. I mean, Tunic was a game that did something different and still had the Soulsy combat, but,
True, true.
um,
And I
I
think it
think
stood
this
out because
one
of that.
I agree, yeah. I also think Tunic probably would be better without the Soulsy combat, but, um, I just want that to be a Zelda game.
Yeah,
That's why.
I think we all did. But yeah, this one, I went into it wanting to have a take on it because it's a game that I think, will appeal to a lot of people. And, it's like usually the Souls thing is not for me. But this seems fun. Like I think I could see myself spending some time with this one for sure. It's
Yeah.
very
There's
charming.
Were there any other games on your list you didn't get to? I wanted to check out that Enshrouded game because it's the number 1 on the trending page, along with, the Thaumaturge, which looked a bit like, a Baldur's Gate style turn-based dark fantasy thing. But I was like, "I'm playing Baldur's Gate right now," and
Yeah.
I kinda wanted a different feel.
Um, I gotta be honest, and I hesitate to say this because like I don't like to be negative, but like there weren't a ton of games on this list that I really thought stood out to me. I think there's a lot of games here that like whether or not they look good is totally not even relevant to my point. It's just like a lot of stuff that's either like styles of game that don't super speak to me or that like I feel are a little played out right now, like
Mhm.
like you mentioned Enshrouded and it's like I don't know how many more survival based building open world games I can take, It's like I feel like that genre is like very like we've joked in the past about like, man, another Nintendo Direct filled with these cozy farming sim type. And it's like we like that kind of game, but it's like at some point it's like, dude, we already have a Stardew Valley. Do we need 30 more of these fucking things? Or like where there was that one PlayStation event, I think it was, or maybe it was Xbox, whatever, where it's like every game was like horror, sci-fi, and it's like, again,
That was Jeff's event. That was Jeff's
okay, okay, okay. Yeah, so it's
G3 event last year.
yeah, G3. And it's like you hit a point with certain genres where it's like even if the game looks good, it's just like I just don't care, Like I just this isn't
Yeah, I'm kinda
exciting
with
to
you
me.
on that one.
Um,
I managed to pick out the games that I was really excited about, and I got through to play them. There were a couple in there that I played that were, like, horror games, but they were multiplayer, and it wouldn't let me, like,
yeah,
match up with random people. It was like, "Bring your friends," and I'm like, "I'm not gonna get a team of 4 friends
to
to
get
go
his
and play
demo.
these, like, little demos with me. It's just not gonna
Um,
happen."
Sky was one I thought about checking out. That's, the new game from that game company who's, like, the studio behind Journey and Flower and stuff, and it's just like
Oh, so I've played that one. That came to, like, iPhone, I think, a
yeah,
while
yeah,
back.
I don't know, like, I don't think like, I feel like I'm interested in it, like, sociologically, like, it's like, I'm interested in seeing what it is and what people think about it, but it as a concept doesn't really appeal to me much, and yeah, I don't know, man, like, I
Just
hate
go play Journey instead. It's fine.
yeah. I don't know. I hate being that I hate having that takeaway and, like, not being like,
Just a
or
real
like,
Debbie Downer today, aren't
"Oh,
you, pretty
yeah,
much?
but I just that's how I feel," you know? It's like a lot of this just it's like, I don't know, man. Uh, so much of it just feels like lesser versions of other things that I've seen in the last couple years, and it's like,
That's the problem. I'm comparing every turn-based, like, D&D style game now to Baldur's Gate 3, and that's gonna be the case moving forwards, and I know that's holding all of these games from indie studios to such high esteem, but I'm
yeah.
like, "If Larian can do it, anyone can do it." Like, come on,
And
let's
it's
go.
tough, right? Because it's like you wanna, like, give everybody, like I wanna take the game for what it is, not what it isn't, but it's like, we have a finite amount of time in our lives, and when it's like, you're asking me to play a game that is similar to another game that I just enjoyed, only that game is better, it's like, that's a tough
It's tough,
ask,
yeah, it's a
you
little
know?
tough ask, yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just like, I mean, a lot like and me, like, I love turn-based RPGs and I love turn-based tactics. There's a ton of them on this list, and it's like, dude, there were 6 to 8 banger, whether they're AAA, whether they're indie, in the last 18 months. That genre has had a million games come out. There was a Fire Emblem, there's Wargroove, there was the Advance Wars remake, there's the Marvel Midnight Suns that came out at the end of
Mhm.
last year. Like, we just had the last Mario and Rabbids game. It's just like, how many more of these do I need? I can't even keep up with the ones that are in franchises I'm already invested in. Do I really like need to get into this indie one that's like it's not even
At
out
at
yet?
the
It's like, I don't know, man.
At the very least, P, you've walked away with one game that you didn't know about, hadn't heard of, and are now really excited about, and I
I
think
am
that is a successful Next Fest.
totally and two games that I'm
Mhm.
into, right? Like, so I was like, that's not for me to be like, I'm not trying to be down on the Steam Next Fest. I'm just saying in general, I think maybe this was not the one for me. And but
Which is fair.
like American Arcadia, I think is a game I could very easily see on my game of the year list at the end of the year based on like if the quality, maintains like the intro to that game, I was like, whoa, okay. This is got something, it's got something to say.
I think it probably will maintain the quality. This is a very refined, demo, and it's out, exactly a month from now, 15th of November, so it's like,
Yeah.
I'm excited about this.
Me too.
Um
Me too.
Yeah, there's a Q&A with the devs today if you're interested. 13th of October, 3 p.m. So if
Check
you're
it
listening to this when it
out.
comes out, go watch the Q&A. I might go and ask them some questions. It's in Spanish though, so I'm gonna need someone to translate for me.
You got Google.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some more Steam Deck related conversation ahead, but before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of the Steam Deck podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of October. They were, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobe, Pilkey, Snackago, Tyler Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to check out some of our sister shows. If you want to go and show that support over on Patreon, if you want to write into the show or keep the conversation rolling between episodes, guess what? You can find links to all that and more at our website, flipscreen.games. Go over there, click on some stuff. It helps us out a lot, and it won't cost you a pretty penny unless you want to go above and beyond and share your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames, where you can help us keep these mics and lights hot. So, you, Steve, have allegedly been emulating games. Allegedly.
I think I legally can emulate games I own, right? Am I not allowed to do that?
I've heard that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Allegedly, I think legally, allegedly, that yes, you can do that. I don't know.
Well, I
I
wanted
know
to
you
check
say
out.
allegedly enough, they can't stick you with anything. So,
Yeah, well, I allegedly wanted to check out emulation on SteamOS 3.5. Now that we've had some of those refinements with the SMT stuff that's actually now working. And I never really played Switch games on the Steam Deck. I'd played GameCube games, Wii U games, and older games like Dreamcast games. GameCube, I obviously did that video about the one talking all about Dolphin that honed in on power tools and that being the kind of strategy to um to get the best performance out of your games. But you don't need it anymore. You do not need power tools at all. It just works out of the box. You'll get really great performance now, just with installing these emulators through EmuDeck and just pop your ROMs into the correct folder. GameCube games
So
will run it
awesome.
flawlessly. It's really, really nice. And the Switch games run so well. It's insane how well they run. I could see why Nintendo wanted to take all those videos down about it because there's very little
It's
incentive to bother
embarrassing.
to bother playing this on real hardware when you can just emulate them better. Luigi's Mansion 3 runs at 30 FPS on Switch. You can get it running at 60 on the Steam Deck, which is just insane. There's a 60 FPS mod you just drag into the folder and it runs and it's running at 60.
That's
I capped it
nuts.
at 40. It's really, really nice. Animal Crossing runs so well. And I'm going to try the local multiplayer emulation in Yuzu soon. It's in the early access at the moment. That you can basically set up a server or you can join a public server for a game, and then it will act as if like you're in the same room. So I'm going to hopefully try with a friend to us both play an Animal Crossing and visit each other's islands, and I'll report back and see how that works
Let's do it.
because
Hit me up.
I think I am so impressed by it, and I kind of want to try some more Switch games
Can
on
we
here.
make a
But it's
video about that? Or are they gonna come for us if we do?
I have no idea if they'll come for us. Maybe if I put the cartridge in the video, like they'll be like, "Hey, you own this. It's fine." Okay, but
It's just for
I've got a
science, Nintendo. It's just for science.
yeah. The problem is though, like I'm hooked on Animal Crossing again. Like I'm playing it. I'm on day 3 now.
Oh my god, you
I'm
started
about
a
to
new
go get
island. You're
About to
crazy.
get my new house. I've actually got some cute villagers this time around instead of the ugly ones I ended up with last time, so I don't have to kick them off my island.
What do you got?
And
What do you got?
genuinely cannot remember, but I've got a cat, and I've never had a cat as a starter animal
Okay.
in Animal Crossing, so I'm happy about that.
Some of my favorite villagers are cats. So Bob, number one villager.
Could you have Bob in New Horizons?
Yeah.
Who was the
Yeah.
one you couldn't have? Who was on that island?
Ooh, I can't remember. You could
And he
have
was like,
Bob though.
yeah, okay, that's
'Cause I
cool.
remember my friend Laura bought me a keychain that had an NFC tag of his card, so I could scan him and get him
That's the
in.
other thing I really wanna try is amiibo emulation to see how that works.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do, and it's really, I'm looking forward to trying some more of these games out with some more mods, but, if you've been holding out on moving over to SteamOS 3.5, I know that the docked experience is still a bit of a mess. We spoke about that a couple of weeks ago, but I think for the gains you get on emulation, it's well worth, moving over to it because I was so impressed that I no longer have to hop into power tools for every single game I wanna play.
It's just a shame that the dock stuff is messed up because this was like the number one thing I would wanna do, right? Is to like plug in one of these old games into the dock and then play them in 60 FPS on my nice TV is like the
Yeah.
dream, like that'd be awesome. I will get there, but shame.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll fix it by the time it gets to stable. In fact, they may have fixed it already. I had an update today. I just haven't checked it out. And like I said, if you can turn FreeSync off on your TV, or if your TV doesn't have it, then you won't have an issue anyway. It's only for TVs that have FreeSync for some reason. It's just messing it up, and there's no response from Valve yet as to when we're going to get a fix for it.
We'll get there. So it sounds like we gotta make a video about this.
If we can do it without getting copyright striked, then definitely, because I think I was super impressed with how it ran.
We'll try to figure
And
it out.
yeah, like there's hardly even any stutter. And Luigi's Mansion 3 just looks so good. I forgot how fun that game is. Like I never finished Luigi's Mansion 3, and it's just such a cool little game.
I
And I
still
know
haven't played
Luigi's
it.
Mansion 2 is coming out at some point, and I hope they give that the work it needs because Man, they seemingly didn't for the Detective Pikachu port.
Oof. Can we just let that franchise go away? What are we
What,
doing?
Pokemon? I'd be fine with that,
Oh my god, how dare you? You're so rude. You're so fucking rude to me.
yeah.
Anyway, anything else you wanna say about your alleged criminal activity?
No, no crimes were committed. I own all of the games I've played. I
Perfect.
actually do own all the games I've played. I bought a copy of Simpsons Hit and Run on Xbox specifically so I could try it in the Series
Real
X when I got
talk,
the Series X. Didn't work.
I own every game that I have emulated. That's not a fan game, but I own the games that they're hacking, so I feel like we're totally above
Yeah,
board here. I
I
got
know.
them. They're all right behind me.
I
I
know.
just
Yeah, all mine are on my shelf over there. It's like I'm just playing them in a better way than I could play them on actual hardware, and I do not feel guilty about it in any way.
No, I don't wanna buy, like, a million adapters and shit either, like, it's a pain in the ass. It's, like, way too hard to play on your vintage stuff, and it's like disc rot is coming for us all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a rough time.
Alright, so we're nearing the end of our time together here, Steve.
Yes,
You think
we
you
are.
think you think we got time for one more story?
Yeah, and I also wanna touch on the message we got from Costa. Do you remember last week that,
I
they
do.
wrote in?
Okay, alright, why don't we start there, and then if we have time, we'll go into this last story.
Okay, let's do it.
Alright, go for it.
So Costa joined the Discord last week, wrote in from Australia saying that they listen to the show even though they don't have a Steam Deck. And they joined the Discord and they sent a message saying, "Hey Steve, I'm getting a Steam Deck delivered. Australia Post keep changing their delivery times on me, which many other Aussies I'm sure can relate. Your discussion last week convinced me to pull the bullet. I think pull
Pull
the
the
trigger
trigger!
or bite the bullet. And after chatting with Shidafu, I decided getting from the grey market locally was worth the risk. So Shidafu in the Discord had said that they also bought from a specific
Let's
grey market site.
go! Alright, that's awesome.
So now I'll be part of the listening community that actually owns a Steam Deck. I guess one question I have is, do you think Valve has the room to make Steam Deck even more modular and easy to mod or upgrade? I'm listening to a previous podcast of yours where you talk about soldering and tracing routes for a capacitor replacement, etc. A more modular design would not only help us now, but also maintain these devices in the future. Perhaps the Steam Deck will be for the future what the NES is for us today.
It's an interesting thought. Um, I think that is a very slippery slope. Like, I think, Valve has made the thing pretty modular, right? Like, yeah, you have to take it apart and solder it and do this or that or the other thing if you want to, um, you know, really trick it out and do some stuff that maybe it was not necessarily intended to do. Uh, I think Valve pretty much supports that as much as they can without it being uh, without it working against the point of the Steam Deck, right? Because as much as I think the Steam Deck is a tinkerer's dream, and that's obviously, a lot of what we talk about, I think in the same breath, it's a consumer product that's supposed to exist to evangelize the Steam marketplace and, to a lesser extent, PC gaming
Hmm.
to more casual markets or markets where PC is not as entrenched or whatever, right? Um, and I think if you wanna make the thing, like, wholly modular where it's like, you can just do whatever you want with it, and you can customize the screen and this and that, and it's, like, so easy that you don't have to touch anything, like, that just is such a different product than what the Steam Deck is, you know? And I think as soon as you get to a point where rather than it being there are 3 models, they're relatively the same except for these 1 or 2 advantages that are easily communicated, then you get
It
into this
becomes like
whole
an Ioneo where it's like they've got 1,000 different models. I struggle to keep up. I don't know which one's got more RAM, less RAM, which one's the better CPU or whatever.
Yep.
And I think they want it to be an easy consumer
Becomes a
product.
marketing problem. Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's like
I would
building a
like it to
PC.
be
Like,
more
how do I
modular
know
though.
which one I want, you know? Like,
Yeah. I think have you seen the Framework laptop, Pete?
No. Here, I'll look it up while you talk.
Check out if you go to frame.work, that's their website. It's this new modular laptop that looks really cool, and you can swap out all the parts. And the idea of this is that you can upgrade it. So, say you originally wanted one with like an AMD chip, and then you want to swap over to Intel, or you want to change the GPU. Like all of these pieces slide in, and all you have to do is take a few screws out to swap them out. I'd love to see someone go down that route with a handheld. So, like, I can swap out the screen further down the line when they do an upgrade, or I can swap out the CPU or the GPU when there's a new version available, and I don't have to sort of throw this away or recycle it and get rid, and I
Yeah.
can just upgrade that one specific part. You know, we spoke before about a potential screen upgrade kit if they ever do a nicer screen, or a battery upgrade kit if they have a bigger battery. Like those are the kind of modules that I'd love to see someone do. But whether or not we get that, I don't know. I don't think that's really a mass consumer product, which is what I think Valve is eventually aiming for. It's
Yeah.
very much a niche thing. And I think there's probably room in the market for someone to do that. Someone like Ioneo or even Framework themselves, I could see coming out with something like that. You know, Framework have a laptop at the moment, but there's no reason they couldn't look at this space and do a gaming handheld as well. And to answer the last question that Costa had, I don't think the Steam Deck will be for the future what the NES is for us today, because you don't need to play it on that hardware. It's a PC. You're going to be able to play it on a new version of a PC in 20 years' time, because the architecture is probably going to be the same,
Yeah.
because it's been the same for the last 30, 40 years.
I think it's probably more akin to like the iPad. Right? Where it's like, this is something we've talked about before where like, there's this article I read years ago, and I wish I remembered who wrote it because I've referenced it so many times, where somebody was talking about how the iPad is very technologically analogous to the microwave, right? Where it's not a device that replaces a phone or replaces a computer for 90% of users, but it exists in that middle area and it fills a niche for enough people in enough ways that it becomes its own ubiquitous SKU. That's kind of what I think the Steam Deck is going to be, right? We've talked about how like Windows is trying to make a handheld PC version of Windows, and we see all these other folks moving into the space and other people making plays to have their own slice of that pie. And I have a feeling that that's probably where we're going long term, where it's the handheld PC as an entity is here to stay, and it'll be a new SKU in the same way that, for browsing the web, right? You've got mobile, you've got tablet, you've got a home computer, right? And for gaming, you've got console, you've got PC, you've got handheld handheld PC. Or I guess like maybe even to zoom it in even more, right? You have like PCs, laptops, and handheld PCs,
Mhm.
you know?
I think I agree with you. I think this is a new form factor that people have clearly like latched onto and are really excited about, and I think we can continue to see innovation in there. I think Valve have done all they can with the current iteration of the Steam Deck, where they've teamed up with iFixit. You can repair this thing yourself. They've got their own repair centers. They helped iFixit come up with all of the documentation, with repair manuals. Like they've
Yeah.
done kind of everything that they can, and it's clearly, it's clearly worked well for them.
Definitely. And I think to Kosa's question, like there's a possibility that whatever the next Steam Deck is inherently more modular because they saw how much people did that this time around, and like maybe that is the case where it is easier to do those things, but I don't think we'll ever see a point where that's the purpose of the product.
I agree with you. And Team Linux 01 in the Discord made a good point actually, and he said that a detachable controller could be interesting, but it comes with the cost of controllers now needing batteries themselves, like the Lenovo Legion Go, right? Where
Yeah,
you've got these controllers that can come off, and then you've got the little bit in the middle that can potentially be upgraded, and you keep the controllers, or if you get stick drift, you can get a new controller and stuff. But I don't know, I quite like it being all one thing, like, over time, my Switch's controllers have become loose, and they don't feel quite as stiff and as rigid and as nice as they did when I first got it, and I'm never really docking the Steam Deck anyway, that I'm like, "Oh, I'd love to take these controllers off." Maybe I would if I had the trackpads and everything that I wanted to be
Even
able to
that though,
play.
it's so much harder to, like, like you need that when it connects to every kind of control scheme that exists, right? Because like,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
are gonna plug it into the TV, you're probably gonna use a controller, and, like, you probably own a controller already, right? Like, because you own another console or you have one for your PC, and you just sync that up. And if you want you said the trackpads, just fucking put in a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, and you're in business, right? It's like, it would be cool, but it's like, is it worth driving up the cost? Is it worth having this whole other SKU that you then need to support and maintain like
I
if
don't think
drift
it is.
starts, do you have to do repairs? Like it just creates variables where there currently aren't any. And it's like, do people want that enough for it to matter? Because like there's only so many Steam Decks in the wild right now, right? So it's like if you make a accessory that only speaks to a fraction of the audience, it's like it's. I think that's why we don't get a ton of support for the dock. It's like probably not that many people bought one, so they're like, well, what should we prioritize improving a feature set for a fraction of our community, or should we be rolling out updates that affect everybody?
I kind of feel like they got distracted with VR personally, and that's why we haven't had anything for the dock for a good while. I mean, 3.5 has been on main since like April, and has only
Yeah,
just made it to beta candidate, and it's like, yeah, it was a long, long 5-month haul to get very
for sure.
minimal updates. I also wonder how many people use, like, a third-party dock, like JSOurce or just, like, an Amazon Basics one, I do think there is a desire for people to play these things on their TV, but I think that's a chicken and egg situation. Are people just not getting the docks or plugging it into the TV because it's a shit experience? And that's why?
Probably.
And, like, I it just need it needs work, but I'll keep banging on that drum
Talk about that till we're blue in the
until they
face.
finally do it, anything
Yeah,
about it, yeah.
yeah, for sure. All right, so we got one more story today. We're gonna jump in real quick. We'll be in and out. After over 80 weeks, the Steam Deck has left the top 10 global sellers on Steam. Good run, hell of a run.
Yeah, really, really good run. 80 weeks is a long ass time. And I you're gonna wonder why. Why did it finally drop out of the top 10? Now it's in 15th place. So it's like disgraced all the way down the list.
Yeah, it is worth pointing out, right? And we're pulling from Gaming on Linux's article on the subject by Liam Daw. Liam points out that the top seller is by revenue, not by units sold. So it might not actually mean much of anything, because it could just be that, like some of the newer games that came out sold a ton of copies, so the revenue's high, right? Like,
Yeah. Or it could be that it's out of stock in certain countries, because in the UK at the moment it's trending at number 7. So it's like maybe it's just out of stock in a lot of
yeah.
countries, so worldwide it drops out of the list, but in
Not to
regions where
mention
it's still available.
Not to mention we have had rumors the last couple weeks, right, about a new model of some kind, and if there are
Yeah.
people that have maybe been thinking about getting a revision and are on the fence, maybe they're like, "Oh, cool, I'll wait till the news of the new one comes out," or whatever.
Yeah, or it's been on sale recently as well, so that might have been hurting the actual revenue that it was making, bringing it down the chart versus what it usually would have.
True.
Al Also,
Not
when
to
you factor the fact that the charts are based on revenue, the fact that Counter Strike 2 is number 2, how fucking much money is that game
Dude,
making?
so much, so much.
It's gotta
This
be
is why
printing
This is
cash.
exactly why everybody wants to make a live service game that's successful, right? It's exactly why. But yeah, like the other thing, you bring up sales. I mean, the Steam, they do one around Black Friday, I think, and then there's the winter sale coming up. So like,
We've also got Scarefest coming up this month as well, and
yeah.
whether they do something in with that.
So I could totally see somebody who's like, oh yeah, like I want one, but there's going to be a sale in 2 weeks. I may as well wait.
Yeah, which I think is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, especially coming up towards holiday season. A lot of people just hold out and wait for Black Friday and wait and see the sales going to be. Combine that, like you said, with the rumors of a revision, people might be getting hesitant to pull the trigger on one of these.
Yeah, especially if you've waited this long, right? Like, you're like, you obviously you weren't somebody who's concerned about being an early adopter. So if you're like waiting to take the plunge, and you probably don't want to end up in this situation you were talking about on flip screen this week with like, the PlayStation 5, where you're like, oh darn, like maybe you just bought a digital and now you're like, oh shoot, this new one's coming out and it's.
And it's better in every way. Yeah.
Except it's more
Counter
expensive. So,
Counter Strike's insane. 1 million people play it like basically all the time.
hmm I'm telling you,
Have you ever
man.
played Counter Strike? I've never played it
Not
ever.
this one. I played the original, like the old one back in the day, and like I didn't play it a lot or anything, but I've literally played it. I had friends that were CS:GO guys. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, not really. I definitely never spent money on it. But yeah, it's fucking wild, dude. Like, I remember that's the thing I used to like think about all the time, where people would be like, "Oh yeah, like Ubisoft, like puts out all these like live service games that fail," and it's like you don't know how many of them are actually successful, and like obviously now the tides have turned a little bit, but like I remember a friend of mine bringing up For Honor as a failure, and it's like there's a million people play that game every month. It's like what are you talking about? It's like
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's like there are these games that like have these quiet communities that are just like thriving and making money, and they're not in the news anymore, but like they're still juggernauts in their own right, even if they're not at the peak of what they maybe used to be, or they're not as big as Fortnite or whatever. It's like I'm sure Valve is very happy with CS:GO having a million concurrent players at all given times.
Yes, yeah, I would be very happy with that. Yeah, and it seems like Counter Strike 2's had a really good reboot. People seem really excited about it.
Yeah,
1.3 million in the last 24 hours. 87% of people think it was have rated it highly on the Steam store. So, man,
wild, wild to think about.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's nuts, man. So, any closing thoughts on this one today?
I would just say go check out the next fest before Monday. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and if you only have time to play one game, American Arcadia is, I think, our pick from the fest.
Highly agree. Highly agree. If there is a game that you played that you really liked that we didn't get to, definitely let us know though, because would love to throw it on the wish list and keep an eye out
Yeah.
for it. So if there's any games that you played during Steam Next Fest that you think are worth getting on our radar, please make sure you're right in. And of course, if you didn't remember, if you weren't paying attention during the plugs, there's a bunch of ways you can get in touch. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find our Discord. You can join just like Hosted did and come and chat with us. Keep the conversation rolling between episodes. You can write in questions at flipscreen.games, or you can hit us up. We're on social media or whatever. You know how to do the internet stuff. Come find us. Flipscreen.games. That's the website. Go click on some stuff. You'll find us in some places, and it'll be a good time for everybody involved. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for showing your support. However, you choose to get involved in the community, we thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week.